What's up, my know-it-alls? Welcome to the finale of Mandalorian Season 3. I tell you what, I didn't think we were going to get here. I am blown away, and I believe you're going to be too. If you haven't seen the episode, make sure you go watch it, because I'm about to spoil everything. That's right. That's how we do it here on the Know-It-All Nation. Also want to thank each and every one of you for clicking on these videos. Thank you guys so much. Any channel growth I've had is because of you guys, and I appreciate you guys taking me into your hearts. I love what I do, and I am so excited to be doing it. Also, don't forget you can check me out over at The Geeky Cast, which is another channel I do with a good friend of mine. And we talk about geek culture and whatnot, along with Buffer Time, which is a Star Trek-centric podcast, which I do on the weekends as time allows. But it's over on the Best of Trek, Worst of Trek channel, and I love those guys too. So again, lots of really cool things going on, and I'm doing my best just to stay in the Zeitgeist. But this is not what you're here for. You're here for The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 8, The Return. All right, so man, we're going to just dive right into it. There's not a whole lot. So it's 35 minutes of the most action-packed and intense filming I have ever seen. I loved everything about this episode. When you look at everything in context, and we're going to talk about that after the review. So stick around to the very end because I want to have a bit of a conversation. Not to mention, I'm going to also announce something brand spanking new, and that's the Know-It-All Nation Patreon. So there's a couple of different ways people have asked if they could support us, and eventually, as we're going to start doing some live stuff, I'm going to start doing some super chats and whatnot. But for right now, go to patreon.com/Mr. Know-It-All, all spelled out one word. And it's going to be a place where we're going to have a bunch of extras. You're going to have a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Also going to do some special videos that you're only going to be able to find there. At certain tiers, you're going to be able to get uniforms and whatnot. Anyways, again, that's the end of this commercial. Back to the thing. So the episode starts with Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians escaping. Literally, it just crashes into that. They're running down the hall and they're going and they're escaping. So we pick up pretty much exactly where we left off. So she contacts Axe on the way, and she knows for a fact they're going to be sending their fleet soon. And so she's like, you need to hurry up and get out here. And he makes a complete break for it, and he's rocketing up into the sky. As he's on his way, you start to see Din Djarin. He's been dragged off by the Imperials, the ones in Beskar trooper armor. You know, you saw it last week. And he was doing his best, and ultimately he was captured. I really feel like that was the goal. I don't know why Moff Gideon has such a hard-on for him, other than the fact that he kept Grogu from him. And we'll find out why in just a little bit. He says something really interesting, that, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. As he's fighting these troopers, Din's doing his best. He's attacking guys, because they have to remember, they may have armor, but Mandalorians are specifically trained to fight with all of the apparatus, all their tools, their accoutrement, if you will. And as they're competing to who's going to get on top, he's constantly, you see him doing these really cool things where he'll like hit him in a sensitive spot, and he'll literally take his gun or his blaster and just be like right underneath the helmet, bing, and I'm like, oh, bro, he's just, he knows how to fight that setup because it's his setup. Love it. All right. So as he's about to get overwhelmed, because they got the whole thing, they got the flamethrowers, they got little laser things, the whole bit. As he's about to lose, as they're starting to center around him, all of a sudden, wham! IG-11's arm shows up and is like, no. And it's Grogu. Man, it's so great. He comes to the rescue, because who else is going to save Papa Mando? That's right, Grogu. So he's ready to, Grogu's pretty much ready to leave. And Djarin tells him, if we go, we're going to keep running. We got to stop him now. This is the place. This is the time. We got to do it. I need you to be brave for me. And he's like, let's go. He didn't say that, but you know, in his own little Grogu way.
Are you with me?
He communicated with me. Oh yeah, I understood him. You know you did too. Shut up. So then we cut to Bo-Katan, who Din Djarin's like, I'm here. I got the kid. I'm going after Moff Gideon, and she's like, okay, I have to get the others here to safety for now. She knows reinforcements are on the way. That's why she sent Axe. However, she's got to keep the soldiers they have safe for now until then. So, and we're going to circle back to them in just a moment. Because the native Mandalorians, they actually, she tells them, I think I know someplace where we might be safe. So then Mando he immediately he radios up to R5 and he says, hey, I need a schematic. So R5, little rocket packs, does the thing, and he ends up pulling an R2, which is he plugs in, does a little spinny deal, and he sends a little hologram schematic. And so now Din Djarin has a way of following, and okay, good, and he goes. Meanwhile, above Mandalore, the fleet gets the signal from Axe. As he arrives, he rushes in, and he's like, you guys, take the fighters, everybody get down. I want everybody to escape this ship. I'm going to use this and keep them up here and distract them up here. You guys all go. They respect that, because that's how Mandalorians do, man. And sure enough, as it's so funny, because I'm part of me's like, did they just pass each other in the clouds? And it's probably exactly what happened, because the clouds were super dark and it's raining and whatnot. But you see the Mandalorian troops and their little fighters shoot below the clouds, just as like moments later, all these Imperial ships come shooting out of the clouds, and you're like, ugh. And sure enough, and he's doing his best, man. He's doing his best. Axe, bro, this is the way. So arriving at the control center, Mando realizes almost immediately that he sees those red force shields, the one Moff Gideon had to walk through, where I believe there's a total of 6 of them. So there's 3 force shields, 2 guys here, 2 guys here, 2 guys there. So in between each layer. And he immediately tells R5, I need you to lower the first shield. The first shield goes down, the soldier's like, what? And Mando rushes in. Again, remember, knows how to fight people in this kind of armor. So what does he do? He's just putting fools away, and doing the whole thing I mentioned, shooting under the helmet and stuff. It's awesome. And then he starts collecting stuff. So the first people, he has a shield now. So that he's like, lower the second shield. They lower the second shield. He's knocking out fools. He grabs one of the weapons from one of the guys. It's this like electro type baton thing. And he's like, ready. So he's got that and he's fighting them off. And he gets to the last shield. R5 suddenly gets attacked by those little... By the way, I did that sound for Mrs. Know-It-All. She's going to watch this. Mrs. Know-It-All had to go on a trip, otherwise she would have been here for this. She is going to be tagging later, so I'll probably be doing an update of this so that you can get her feedback, because her and my brother-in-law, who's also a Mandalorian fan, by the way, so for real, brother-in-law Know-It-All? Yeah, we'll go with that. R5 has to fight those guys, but then he finally comes through, because of course, and he pushes the thing, the shield opens, Mando takes them out. As they enter, Grogu, who comes out, still in the IG-11, they go into they find themselves in the clone lab. Now, we'd seen this an episode ago, and I wasn't sure what clones they were. I thought they might have been some earlier version of Snoke or something, or possibly even some earlier Emperor clones. Because in a lot of the original extended universe stuff, Legends, if you will, there was this whole series, it wasn't Heir to the Empire, that was the Thrawn stuff, but it was, I believe it was the Dark Empire Rising, and you got to see, just like this, these clone banks, and it was all these were various stages of the Emperor. These weren't experimental, it's not like you saw experimental kind of Snoke-y looking clones elsewhere in this thing. This was much more, like you saw in season 2 of Mandalorian, where they go back to Navarro, right? So this was different in that these were clones of Moff Gideon. And as Grogu's looking at one of them opens its eyes, and Din Djarin's like, yeah, come on, let's go, let's take these out. And they blow them up, and they destroy all of the clones. Moff Gideon has no clones. Now, on its face, that's bad. You're going to find out why it's even worse than you think in just a second. So there's this brief moment and period where the native Mandalorians have taken everyone to these surface gardens. So apparently gardens were always really, they used to grow, and over time, whatever, they got industrialized out. And then of course with the purge of Mandalore and the whole thing. So little by little, and he's like, yeah, if we just left everything alone, they all started to sprout. And as they sprouted, we converted them into farms. And this is how we've survived all this time, is there's various of these cavernous, almost like Genesis caverns. Sorry, I'm a Star Trek fan. But it's like there's food and growth and all kinds of stuff happening, and these are throughout and pockmarked throughout the entire planet. Anyway, so it's a really interesting way for them to have ultimately survived. So when the reinforcements, you find out the reinforcements are on the way, and you see these Mandalorians and their ships, and as they show up, Bo-Katan's like, let's go, and everyone takes to the sky, the armor and everyone, watching this, like, I swear, all I wanted to hear was Flight of the Valkyries, because they are just coming down, and you're like, oh, it's dope. And what happens? Here comes the Beskar troopers. And you see these these groups collide. I didn't realize how epic a jetpack powered, or fueled, if you will, fight in the sky with multiple soldiers would look amazing. Do you remember the scene from what's that movie? Oh my gosh, with William Wallace, whatever. Anyways, the one was like freedom with Mel Gibson. I can't remember the name right this second. But anyways, and these armies crashing into each other on a field. It's like that, but in the sky. And they're just going, and it's amazing. And you see the armor, and she's just like taking her giant hammer in the sky and just whacking fools. It's amazing. So Mando makes it to Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon is pissed about his clones. He's like, and he's pissed like a father would be. It's kind of weird, especially because this is where you find out what the purpose of them, why it was so important that these not get destroyed. These are the reason why he was after Grogu in the beginning. He's crossbred, not only superior like physical stuff, okay, trying to perfect himself or versions of himself, but he's crossbred them so they can use the Force. Also, he's not using these to help subsidize himself because he's not a Force user. He can't transfer his personality or his mind or thought patterns to another body the way the Emperor can. He's flat out wanting to use the clones of himself who are stronger and Force capable as his new troopers. Because remember, for him, it's not just about the armor and the suit, because he had the perfect Dark Trooper before with the robot one, the droid troopers. What he wants is somebody with his level of prowess, physically stronger, and it's the perfect soldier. Oh yeah, it's the fascist dystopia that everybody could possibly want. And so then the Imperial Guards show up, big boys in red, and I do love the fact that when they show up, they walk kind of like in like this semi-slow motion, and it's not that they're filming in slow motion; it's this dramatic stride they have that looks just dope. And so they start fighting, and Mando's doing poorly, man. He's not doing good until Grogu shows up. No, and it's the best. They turn on him, and as they go for him, he turns around. He's trying to distract them long enough to give Din Djarin some attempt or chance to do something. As Din Djarin gets up and he's going to go follow after them, that's when Gideon shoots him with the little stringy deal around the neck, of course, because that's the only place you hit people, and drags him back. Bo-Katan is in the sky, and she's fighting through, and she sees where she has to get to, and she goes, and just as Mando's sitting here getting talked down to by Moff Gideon, she shows up, knocks him out of the way, and is like, you go save your kid. Mando doesn't waste no time. He goes straight up after Grogu. Cut. In the other room where Grogu is being attacked, the Imperial Guards destroy the IG-11 suit. Grogu jumps out, and he's running along this circular light fixture that's in the air. As he's running around, he's very reminiscent of Yoda in that he's like running and flipping and doing all kinds of stuff. It's amazing. So Bo-Katan, they're fighting and they're doing it's rough. It's really rough, but it's an amazing. She's holding her own somewhat. So then you cut back to Din Djarin and Grogu, they managed to defeat the Imperial Guards, and Grogu is so much a part of that. He's using the Force to like keep their weapons away from him, push him away. If one of them's about to kill Mando or do something to him, they're just pushing him. He's doing so good. I'm really, really proud of him in terms of keeping it together and staying. He earns what happens as he goes. He's earning his place in the Mandalorian mythos, or as they like to say, his song is getting sung, bro. And I'm excited. As they're all doing their best to win out in their various pockets. You got the Mandalorians in the sky fighting Beskar troopers. You got Bo-Katan facing off against Gideon. You have Din Djarin trying to rescue Grogu and fighting with that thing. Axe announces the ship is dying and he's taking it down. He says, "You guys got to get clear. I'm taking out that Imperial. If he's gonna go down, he's taking this cruiser and turning it straight up into a giant spear if he has to." Very reminiscent of the Super Star Destroyer, or the Star Destroyer crashing into the Super Star Destroyer in one of the earlier films. So as this is all happening and going down, he manages to, Moff Gideon is fighting, and bo-katan has the darksaber. He catches her hand and he squeezes and he crushes the darksaber. And he's like, "You've lost everything, blah, blah, what are you gonna do? You're all by yourself." And she looks up and she says, "Mandalorians are stronger when we're together." And that's when Din Djarin walks in, ba, 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 ba. And you're like, oh, this, again, they're giving you everything you wanted from all of this. So then he proceeds. the Mandalorians who have escaped the crash ship, as the crash ship is crashing, you see them kind of go flying in either direction, and the giant ship just cuts straight down. And as they manage to back away from him, bo-katan he's shooting off. Bo-katan rushes in front of Mando with her energy shield thing, and while they're sitting there, he's shooting shield thing. Ship comes down, explodes, and you see Moff Gideon just enveloped. Everyone's enveloped by flames. And you kind of assume after this magnitude of an explosion that everyone's done. Nah, man. No, sir. As soon as we push through the flames, and you see Grogu sitting there, he's holding his hands out, and you see the shield, and they're like underneath it, and then they do this awesome side shot. And it looks like something out of an anime because the flames are all moving and you see the shield and they're just running around the shield. And you're like, oh, bro. It's one of the coolest moments ever. So when the dust settles, because obviously that's the end of that, for now anyway, as far as we know. So when the dust settles, you get this wonderful moment in the aftermath that is very genuine and pure. And you see Paz Vizsla's kid. He's taking the creed in the living waters of Mandalore. The first Mandalorian of any ilk to take the creed in the living waters in probably 30, 40 years since the purge. And so it's a really good moment. And when they're done, Din Djarin brings Grogu out and he's like, hey, he would like to, and she said he's not old enough to speak the creed, therefore he's got to stay a foundling. He can't be raised to apprentice. And he's like, well, what if he gets permission? And she's like, his parents are far, far away. How would you get permission? Take him to go find them and get permission? And he goes, no, I'm going to adopt him. And she accepts that as this is the way, and accepts that. And it's I was raised by a single mom, and at 12, my stepfather came in and changed my entire life and made me really feel genuinely loved and cared for, and ultimately at 16 adopted me and gave me his name. So there is a Mr. Know-It-All Senior, and that would make me Mr. Know-It-All Junior. But at the end of the day, who's now Papa Know-It-All. And so I genuinely had affinity to this moment, to say nothing of the fact that I love my daughter so genuinely. I get that parental feeling, and it meant so much in that moment. And I'm watching this, and he's dubbed Din Grogu. So that's his new family name, and it's amazing. And it was so much. This was the way. We get this really nice coda where we cut to Navarro, and Grief Karga's there, and he gives Mando the deed to... there's a brief moment in between this where Mando stops off at that New Republic watering hole, and he runs into the captain. I call him Blue Leader. I know for a fact it's like Captain Tappy or something like that. And so he goes there and he says, hey, I want, he's like, he thanks us and that, blah, blah. He goes, hey, listen, I'm a bounty hunter by trade. My son is going to start learning the same trade, but I want to be more selective because I'm raising him. So he basically is like, why don't you let me chase down these former Imperial people. I believe they're setting up, so everybody's got their things they think. It's like, oh, the movies are this and that and blah, 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 and they're going to do some other stuff. There's good, because they announced a celebration. There's going to be a Mandalorian movie. The film is going to put a button on all of these, what we'll call street level shows, meaning they're not big, giant, epic Skywalker sagas. They're bounty hunters and Mandalorians and Imperial whatever the hex. Plus, there's so much story left to tell regarding what's happened. Like, how are we ever going to find out about Elias Kane? There's a lot of question marks that need to be talked about. Anyway, so and so he tells him, he's like, yeah, go ahead, and he's like, they're never gonna approve it. He goes, that's because you're not gonna tell them. He's like, I'm here for you, man. Just call me out. Let me know when you need help, and we'll go. He's like, what I would like is a small deposit on my work in the future. He's like, what do you want? He wants that IG unit's head that's in the bar. So he's like, okay. Now we go back to Navarro, because when Grief Karga gives him he says, here's a deed. It's a nice, beautiful cabin. When between adventures, you and your son can come here and relax and know that you're safe. And he's like, thank you, I really appreciate it. And he goes, and I got something for you. And it's a restored IG-11 who's the new magistrate for, or not magistrate, he's the new constable, the cop. He's a police officer for Navarro. And we know he's awesome and it looks great. So yeah, man. And it kind of looks like he used some element. So there's elements that don't look like they're just buff metal. I think they're Beskar. I think he might have used the Beskar armor from those Beskar troopers to help make this IG unit even more strong, which is great, which is stronger, so it's great. So yeah, man, there you go. Now you know, and if knowing is half the battle, you're halfway to knowing all yourself. I've enjoyed this run through The Mandalorian. I hope you have too. Don't forget to check out all of my different things I got going on. But for the most part, also understand that I'm here, man. I love doing this with you guys. Whether it's Mandalorian, Star Trek, Doctor Who, whatever it is, I'm all about it. So if you'd like to support the channel, obviously we have memberships open here on the channel. We're gonna start doing some live streams where super chats can be done. Also, there's the Patreon where you can get for joining various membership levels. We'll go ahead and when you join the Know It All Nation, there's a possibility of getting a shirt, or even if you join one of the lower decks ones, you get a uniform. Again, I'm creating a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna do my best to get some things out there for everyone to help support the channel and allow me to keep on bringing you the things you love so very much. So I love each and every one of you. We'll talk again very soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.